Hello and welcome to Unleashed, the show that explores how to thrive as an independent professional. Unleashed is produced by Umbrex, which connects you with the world's top independent management consultants. I'm your host, Will Bachman, and I'm excited to be here today with Laura Gariepy, who runs the firm Every Day by the Lake. Laura is a freelance writer. She'll tell us about that. And she also helps other people, other writers, become freelance writers. I've been seeing her tweets for quite a while. She's very big following on Twitter. Laura, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me, Will.
So, Laura, tell me, how did you get started as a freelance writer?
It's not glamorous. It was actually rather accidental. I quit my full-time job in early 2018 because that schedule wasn't allowing me to show up for myself and my family the way I needed to. I didn't have a clear plan. I just had a few bucks in the bank, and I knew I had some time to figure that out. Um, I launched a blog because it seemed like that's what you're supposed to do when you want to have an online business. Even at that juncture, I was still a little murky on the details.
And what were you blogging about?
Really just my transition from employee to this unknown space that I was in. I was calling it a sabbatical at the time because I wasn't even sure that it was going to be like a long-term thing. I wanted it to be, but without a clear plan, I had my doubts. And once I got entrenched in the blogging community, I actually was able to write a guest post for a major personal finance website. And a week or so later, I was surprised to receive payment. I didn't expect that. It was an aha moment. I said, geez, I can replicate this process and make a living from this, one article at a time. And once that happened, within a month, I had another recurring client that I still write for. And, by the end of the year, I had a handful. And within a year of earning my first freelance dollar, I had completely replaced my corporate salary.
That's pretty amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Um, so a lot of listeners of this show may from time to time be interested in hiring a freelance writer. So I want to explore that a little bit. And I know that you also coach new writers who are coming into this space. First question around this is, are there different sort of categories or specializations of freelance writer? I imagine there might be some people who are great about writing like website copy, some people who maybe write blog posts for you, some people who could write a more formal white paper. But I'm not really into this world. So how do people tend to specialize and fit into different categories?
There are absolutely specializations. Like, I've never written a white paper. That's not to say that I couldn't,
Yeah.
but I don't have that expertise. So, someone would have to take a chance on me to do a project like that. I specialize primarily in blog posts, website copy, and email newsletters. Those are the things that I find myself doing the most. But certainly there's a difference between content writing, which is designed to inform, and copywriting, which is intended to persuade. And then you have white papers that are, more technical than a blog post. So there is different skills that are involved in producing these different pieces. Some writers may be skilled in doing multiple types of content, and others may be purely specializing like in one aspect.
Uh, So, for example, you write a lot of blog posts. Um, when you do that, is it typically you'll get engaged to kind of ghost write blog posts on like an ongoing basis, like one post a month or per week, or how is it typically structured for you?
It varies. Some companies do give me a byline so I can post that work in my portfolio, but many of my clients do want to publish it in their own name, which is fine. I get to learn their voice and produce content that's reflective of them and their company. Um, Usually it is on an ongoing basis. And I like that. It helps for income stability as opposed to having to pitch ideas as a one-off all the time.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay. And when you're writing blog posts, how do you think about, search engine optimization or making it something that it's going to draw traffic to the website, or do you optimize more just around, like, do they give you topic ideas or sort of what they want you to write about? Tell me a little bit about how you have that whole content discussion slash SEO discussion with the client.
So it really does vary. Some clients will give me an SEO brief that includes the keywords they want, the number of times they want them, an outline with the heads, the subheads, the whole bit. And that's fine. I can write within those confines. And then on the other end of the spectrum, I have clients that say, I want you to write 1,000-word or so blog posts about this topic. I don't really have much input as to what you do from an SEO perspective. Like, they're really hands off, or that's not their goal. I do try to optimize, using the SEO best practices that I'm aware of. So it really depends on what the client's looking for.
All right. Um, as you coach freelance writers or writers who are thinking about becoming freelance, I'm sure a lot of people ask you, okay, well, how much can I earn? How do you help people navigate that and figure that out? Like, what are the typical rates, or how much should someone expect to get paid for writing things of different lengths and so forth?
So again, and I feel like a broken record, there's a lot of variability here.
Yeah.
When you're just starting out, it's okay to maybe make 10 cents a word for a blog post, but as you become more experienced, or if you're writing for a bigger client with a bigger budget, or if you're writing a piece that's more complicated and has more requirements, then you could take it to 50 cents or $1 or more per word. So depending on how many clients you have, how many pieces you produce, your income is going to be based on that. I know multiple clients that earn, not clients, sorry, freelance writers that earn 6 figures per year. Some of them multiple 6 figures. And then I know some that, are not even making close to that. So it depends on really how much time you put in, the client base that you have, and the types of work that you're doing.
For someone who's a freelance writer making over $100,000 a year, um, don't need to know sort of the names of the websites they're writing for, but can you give us a little sense of what sort of content they're producing and for what types of websites or publications? I mean, that's a pretty good amount of money for, I would think, for a freelance writer. What's sort of the profile of that person, and where is their stuff being published?
Basically, their pieces are being published in like household name websites, very major publications across different niches. So like US News, or I'm sorry, I had another example and it escaped me, but it's really, if you saw their portfolio, you would recognize every single person that they're writing for. Um, and they get that top dollar because they are working with these massive conglomerates that have the budget to pay them. And it's something that they typically work up to over time. A lot of freelance writers start writing, for other blogs in their niche that maybe are a little further along than they are, because they have some budget to pay a freelance writer. And then as they progress, they can kind of keep trading up for, bigger clients.
Okay. Um, for someone who wants to hire a freelance writer, where are some of the different places to think about going to find that person? Do you suggest people try Upwork, or just ask their friends for recommendations, or is there different specialized websites where freelance writers are kind of aggregated together? How do you find a freelance writer?
Um, I mean, certainly you can turn to Upwork. As a freelancer, I don't use it to
Okay.
get gigs. I find it's better to kind of broker those deals on my own outside of a platform.
Uh-huh.
And, from what I've heard, sometimes clients have that same experience. They'd rather work outside of that platform as well, but it's an option. Referrals are gold, no matter what direction they're going in. If you can have somebody, name drop, that saves you a lot of legwork. That gives the person instant credibility, if they're being endorsed by someone that you know and trust. You can find freelance writers on LinkedIn. You can, in my experience, find a lot of them on Twitter. Um, a lot of freelance writers are active on social media because that's how they attract clients. So if you're looking for a writer, um, those writers are advertising themselves on those platforms.
Hmm. Yeah, so I've started getting into Twitter over the past few months, and I mean that's how we connected. Um, but often, maybe it's just been not been obvious to me. I guess you really have to check people's profile to find out. I mean, someone might be posting all the time on Twitter and saying interesting things. It wouldn't necessarily strike me as obvious that they're available for hire as a writer. What would the way to search on Twitter be? I mean, maybe there's an advanced search to find, you know, copywriters or writers for hire. How would I go about finding people to hire on Twitter?
I mean, I would just search for the term freelance writer, or if you have a niche, personal finance freelance writer,
Mm,
um, and see what comes up. And then once you do find a writer, chances are they're connected to other writers.
mhm,
There's a lot of networking that happens amongst freelancers. And so if you look at their profile and their stuff, and maybe they don't fit your needs, you can kind of mine the connections that they have for other potential leads.
mhm. Okay. All right. And so don't necessarily think that Upwork is the whole universe. Are there other um, aggregators or platforms, maybe other than Upwork, that you've talked to other freelance writers where they congregate, where you can find people?
Not really. I mean, Upwork does have its counterpart called Fiverr.
Yeah.
And so that runs similarly, but I'm not really aware of like other platforms.
Oh,
I
okay.
think, I mean, I know that they're out there. Like there are places where freelance writers can put their portfolios and it functions similarly to an Upwork or a Fiverr. Um, I just don't really have a lot of commentary on that because I don't use those platforms.
Interesting. Yeah, I guess I think of Fiverr as more of a graphic design, or if you need an illustration done. I didn't even think of it as a place where you could go to get a freelance writer. And it almost seems like there's an opportunity out there for someone to create a really great dedicated platform just for finding the right freelance writer. And you could search by category and so forth. Seems like an opportunity for anyone listening. Um, what are some of your thoughts, Laura, on how to, let's say you identify several people on how to pick the right person? Is it really just about reading their portfolio and finding someone whose writing you like? Or if you're, if you were hiring a freelance writer, how would you recommend going about selecting the person?
So, I mean, the portfolio for a freelancer is essentially a resume of someone seeking traditional employment. So that is the first place that you go. But then certainly there is an interview process that should take place so that you get to know them, explain a little bit about what you do, what you're looking for, and then you can assess for additional fit from there. If it still feels good, then I would pay someone to write a test piece for me. Um, as you alluded to before we started recording, it's not a good idea to ask somebody to produce work for free. And so if you compensate them, even at like a reduced rate, then you would normally agree to try out and provide you with something for your website, then you can really assess if they can write in the style that you need for whatever application you're going to use that content for.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay, so if you were looking to hire someone to write like blog posts for your firm, uh, would you ask someone to write like an entire blog post or like write one paragraph? Tell me a little bit more about how this test process might work.
Design it however you would like. I think that the compensation you attach to it, has to be commensurate with the amount of work you're asking them to do.
Mhm.
If you feel like you can get what you need out of a short blurb, then that's okay. Um, I personally would probably ask someone to write a full length article and pay them appropriately for it.
I'm curious, typically, can you give me a sense of how much time it typically takes? I'm sure it obviously varies a whole lot, but um, how much should you expect it would take to do a typical, let's say, blog post, one that you write that's, and I don't even know how many words is a typical post. Give me a sense of like how long is a typical post? How much time does it take?
You know, my sweet spot is usually between 1,000 and 1,500 words.
Okay.
And if it's a topic that I'm familiar with, where there aren't a whole lot of formatting requirements, I don't have to do research, I don't have to do interviews, I can just kind of bang it off the cuff. I can get that done in 90 minutes to 2 hours, like from nothing to outline to draft to polished in
Wow.
about that time. Yeah, I mean, I've become more efficient over time. It certainly wasn't that way 2 or 3 years ago. Um, if I do have to do interviews or do extensive research or provide links to certain sources, certain clients have very strict sourcing guidelines. That takes up a lot of time. So a piece of the same length could take me 4 or 5 hours.
Mm, okay. Interesting. All right. And when you're with your ongoing clients, do they typically ask you, "Hey, Laura, we want you to come up with the stream of topics." So you figure out what would be a good, set of topics to run on.
It's a mix. Sometimes they ask me to come up with topics. Sometimes they assign me what to write, and sometimes there's a collaboration. So I might say, if we have to run 4 blogs this month, I've got 2 ideas. What do you think of them? Do you have anything else that you'd like me to write to fill in posts 3 and 4?
Mhm. Okay. All right. Now, let's talk a little bit about your practice of coaching aspiring freelance writers. Do you have a kind of standard kind of curriculum that you run people through of, is there sort of 4 stage gates or kind of a formalized process, or is it, more informal? I'd love to hear what are the, how you help people think through the whole process and get started and get up to speed on it.
So it's really tricky to have a set curriculum because everyone's starting in a different place. I have clients that don't even have their own website,
Hmm.
and then I have some clients that have maybe had 1 or 2 freelance clients, but haven't found the level of success that they're looking for. And so because they are in different starting points, I have to tailor the conversations that we have to where they are. I am developing an online course
Hmm.
that is going to be kind of like a DIY, and it will follow like a sequence and go over certain topics like managing your money, landing clients, organizing your life around your business, the right mindset you have to go from employee to self-employed. And so it will go through those gates, so to speak. But that's because I don't know like where they are in their journey. So they can refer to whatever information they need as a self-study. But when I'm working one-on-one with someone, the first thing I do is really get a sense of where they're at and where the gaps are, and then create an individualized plan for them.
Okay. So the probably the core thing that a lot of people are curious about is how do I get clients? So what's your guidance there for freelance writers on how to find clients?
I take a relationship building approach. I'm not a big fan of the platforms we discussed. I'm not a cold pitcher. I know some people find success with both of those things, but that's not been the case for me. So that's not what I teach. And so I help clients build a presence online, and that includes their website, their social media channels, and then start putting out content that demonstrates their expertise and engaging within the community that they're starting to build. That brings about name recognition. So sometimes clients will find them. Ultimately, that has happened to me several times just because I'm so active. And then your name will be recognized if you apply to a posted position because maybe the editor has seen you active online. And if you're engaging with other people's contents, commenting on it, liking, sharing it, you're being of service to them. So they're going to be more inclined to want to reciprocate or at least try to help you out. Like maybe if they don't have an opportunity for you, they can refer you to someone else. So it's about building a network and nurturing the relationships.
Hmm. Okay. All right. Have you spoken to other people that have tried the cold outreach approach of hey, I write this personal finance blog and I see that like put, posts up every week. Would you like someone to do that for you? Or, hey, I see that you're a consulting firm, but you don't have a blog. How'd you like to have a weekly blog post? I could write it for you. Have you seen folks trying that? What sort of success did they have?
Yeah, I mean, some people make their careers off of doing that kind of outreach. And certainly the way I do things is not the only way. So it really has to be about what someone feels comfortable doing, what they want to do. In my opinion, when you go and you cold pitch, your rejection chances or your chances of even getting a response, are low, and your rejection chances are high because they don't know you and they probably get a lot of these unsolicited requests. So it may go straight into their trash,
Mm-hmm.
in their email inbox. And so my approach is you are already warming people up. So you're not coming to them without them having any clue who you are, and you increase your chances of success. Maybe it's not right at the moment, but maybe when they do have an opportunity or they think of someone who could use your services, they'll remember you and be more inclined to connect you with that opportunity.
Um, Now, you have quite a Twitter following. Could you tell me a little bit about how you've built up that following over time, and what sort of benefits you've seen from it, like in terms of actually getting projects through your Twitter following?
Yeah, I launched my Twitter account when I launched my blog back in March of 2018. I just crossed the 7,000 follower mark, which was exciting.
It's amazing.
Um, it's been organic. I probably, I haven't done the math, but obviously it's not a meteoric rise. It took me, 2.5 years to get to this point. So it's just incremental, steady growth by sharing my material, by following others. Sometimes people will follow you back if you follow them. So
Mhm.
that's a strategy. I mean, I wouldn't do that blindly or willy-nilly, follow people strategically and then engage with their material so that they're inclined to follow you back. And so you have that relationship starting to form. Um, it's just consistent use of the platform. So I do have a social media tool that posts automatically for me. Multiple times a day. So even when I can't be on the platform, I'm on the platform.
Mhm.
And then I do log on once or twice a day to engage organically, like respond to people who have, tweeted at me, or maybe look through my feed and see if there's anything I want to comment on or share. And so that approach does produce consistent results over time. In terms of the success that I've had, uh, one of my four-figure a month clients found me as a result of a tweet, and it wasn't even a tweet about freelancing. It was me talking about how I was going to organize my day. So the guy emails me and said, I saw you on Twitter. I like how organized you are. At first I thought it was a scam because I'm like, who is this? And he says, I'd like to talk to you about writing for my company. And the rest is history. I've been working with them for 18 months. And in addition, they've referred me to another company that they're affiliated with that also needs content. So I've written for them. And they've referred me to a third prospect. Nothing's happened with them so far, but it's just the idea that from a single tweet, all of that happens. And you never know when that's going to happen. So that's why you have to be on your game consistently. It's like planting seeds. You don't know when you're going to be able to harvest necessarily, but if you keep doing it all of the time, you know that there will ultimately be some sort of harvest.
So tell me about what tool are you using to kind of help schedule these tweets out?
Smarter Q,
Smarter.
smarter Q, like standing in a line
Oh,
queue.
Smarter Q. Okay. And then how does that work? So do you like write each one, separately, or do you have some that are just on repeat, like you do like once a week or something? Or tell me a little bit about that scheduling in advance aspect.
So everything that's really timely or off the cuff, I do organically.
Mm,
Anything that's evergreen, I program into this tool. And so it is set to repeat indefinitely until I take it out of the queue. There are categories like blog posts, tips, promotional content, other people's articles, and you just put that content into the system, tell the schedule when you want to share what type of content, and walk away. And you
mm,
can refresh the queue as often or as infrequently as you want.
mm. And how do you find that working? Do you find kind of people continue to engage with the evergreen posts that you've posted in the past? It's like the same post, same tweet as you've posted in the past, but it sees new eyeballs and you get new engagement with it.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about Twitter especially is the feed moves very quickly. So your followers are not going to see everything that you post. So you are catching new eyeballs, even if you're recycling the post time and time again.
Mm-hmm. And when you were starting out, did you mostly, I mean, when you're starting out and you have zero followers, you could be posting all day, but no one is going to see it, right? So, did you mostly start by commenting on other people's tweets and kind of to catch their attention, or how did you grow your following initially?
It was basically following people that I found interesting and then, like you said, engaging with their material.
Fantastic. Um, well, Laura, it's been great chatting with you. Where can people go find you online or on Twitter?
So my website is everydaybythelake.com and my Twitter handle is at everydaylake.
And I gotta ask, I've been wondering about this. How did you pick that as the name for your firm and for your Twitter handle?
So it's kind of literal. I live on a lake, and now that I work for myself from home, I'm every day by the lake.
I,
And I guess if you wanted to get a little more metaphoric about it, the lake is my happy place. And by providing services to other folks, I free up more of their time so they can go find their own happy place.
Fantastic. Well, Laura, thank you so much for joining today. And listeners, if you have not yet reviewed this show and have thinking about giving it 5 stars, now would be a fantastic time to go on iTunes and do that. It does help other people discover the show. And if you have questions for me or topics you'd like to see me cover on the show, send me an email, unleashed@umbrex.com. I do answer every email. I look at every email. And if you'd like to propose a topic, I will do my best to do a future episode to answer your question. So, Laura, thanks for joining, and
Thank you, Will.
we'll see you listeners next time.